my journey was like getting to a point where I put on like 50 pounds. I was fat. I was in a relationship that I thought was good. Turned out she had a different opinion about that. And I was not a very good brother or son. I'm a programmer and I learned to code in rehab at 17. Since then, I've built and exited 3 software companies. I've invested in over 100 companies.
Now, you talk about how you approach things, right? When you have a team though, and obviously there's different functions, how do you make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction?
Some CEOs don't want to do it, but I'm telling you, simple, clear, repeated is probably one of the most powerful strategies to make progress, because you already know the few moves you got to make really well every day that will lead up to the thing you want to create.
What do you do with people that you bring in? Because you get a bad apple, it can be like cancer. It spreads.
To me, if that's the cancer, that's the person that can do the job, but then is just horrible, talking to, mean, they're mad dog, they step on people's toes, they mess around, they talk crap about people behind their team, they're disruptive, okay? Those are the ones, get them off the team. And then the top right quadrant, those are green, those are the ones that we figure out how to lock them in with golden handcuffs. You know, this is where the executive comp structure gets played a point, where I want them to get compensated with an unlimited compensation strategy based on their ability to execute. And I never want somebody to feel held back.
What's up, everybody? We got Dan Martell with us today. Dude, thank you for coming out. You're here in Boise. You made the trip, came up to the house, so we're doing it in my place. And
yeah, I'm a big fan of views, and you got that in spades.
Yes, we love it. It's a good spot to have kids and, you know, relaxing, a little escape. And you're from Canada.
Yeah. Where I live in Kelowna, BC, which is on a lake surrounded by the mountains, is very similar to this.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a border that separates countries, but I think it's like part of the same kind of mountain range. And
exactly. That whole northern part, Idaho, Montana just goes right up.
Yeah.
So I love Canada, BC. I'm always up there. You're an entrepreneur, obviously. A lot of people here know who you are, but for those that don't or haven't heard you, you're mainly focused on software and you started software companies.
Yeah.
How did you start in software?
So it's kind of a crazy story because I'm a programmer and I learned to code in rehab at 17.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a bit of a colorful upbringing, which is kind of funny because if you talk to most entrepreneurs and they're like really honest, they're like, yeah, I kind of had some challenges too. So I went through that period. Software, learning to code saved my life. In many ways, it became my new addiction.
Yes.
And then this is 97, 45 today. So like right at the beginning of the internet. And that becoming obsessed with code and building software, like not only saved my life, but that journey of being an entrepreneur for me, it's what turned me on to personal development and, you know, betterment and all that fun stuff. So like that was the beginning. And since then I've built and exited 3 software companies. I moved to San Francisco for a while. I've invested in over 100 companies. So Intercom, Hootsuite, Udemy, tons of companies. And then today I spend most of my time in my ventures. I have a AI venture studio called Martell Ventures, where we incubate and partner with people to build AI technology companies. And most people know me from my book, Buy Back Your Time, but that's like my side hustle. Yeah. Or like last month, I think we had 120 million views on our content. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, 28 days.
This, that's actually the main reason I really wanted to talk with you. And we were discussing with the team, we're like, you're coming into town. This is amazing. Because a lot like you, I'm entrepreneur, operator, everything else, the content stuff, that came later. That came after. It wasn't, we're trying to produce content. We had, 300 plus million in assets. I had, 5-6 companies we were growing. And that just came later.
Yeah.
It was an after the success, everything else came. And I love talking to actual operators that have grown, build companies, and then are doing this on the side because of a few reasons. It shows how well you are at optimizing your businesses, your team, and the fact that you are actually sharing knowledge from doing as opposed to just theory.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a lost thing a lot of times.
Well, like my running joke for people is the reason they're not good at business is there's no team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like literally,
Yes.
I meet these like gurus, and it's just them.
Just them.
And I'm like, well, who's Sarah? Oh, that's my virtual AI person. I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, all my team is remote and contractors. I'm like, I don't know. Like you're teaching people business and you don't even do business.
Yeah.
Like I'm all for like, fractional costs and, scalable business models. But at the same time, the only way you can actually grow is with people.
Yes. Their infrastructure, as far as not just assets, processes, systems, but actual people that you have a part of a team where you have to be a leader, where you're executing a group of people to actually complete an objective is not the same thing. And a lot of people actually struggle with trying to go from either that solo, that one-off, to even a team. Then once you get a team, how do you scale from there? Because you're not only managing a team, you have multiple companies that have employees and teams, executives on, I'm sure, at each one of them.
Just here in Boise, I think I have 6 CEOs coming with me we're going to go do a benchmarking trip in St. Louis at First Form. So like, even that concept, people are like, what's a benchmarking trip? My philosophy is if we are supposed to know everything we need to know to win, we're all in trouble. Yeah. Because what we're doing, you've never done, I've never done, you've never, so then what I do is I figure out who's doing these different pieces, right? Culture and, and just like standards. That's, I would say, First Form, like so like go visit those people. That's even those strategies most people don't understand. That's part of a leadership. So yeah, for me, one of my new employees yesterday at my venture studio, he asked me, he's like, how are we supposed to run all these companies? I was like, oh, we don't run them.
Yeah.
We hire CEOs and they run them, and here's 5 of them. And they're like, oh, I go, yeah, this team supports those teams.
Yep.
And it's actually not complicated once you see how it's done. And yet it is, for me, the most fun thing in the world because I like variety. And it turns out every day I wake up and I get to have fun conversations with people who inspire me. And there's a lot of variety.
And, it's funny because that's kind of how I am, whether I'm traveling to California, meeting with my CEO, here, or having mine who's downstairs, one of my other executives coming up from Maine to meet, right? It's managing those people's, that vision, that team. But I think what a lot of people forget is I love this, it's a humility part that you immediately go to where it's like, I don't know how to do that. And I feel like a lot of people starting out are entrepreneurs or even business owners that have, 5, 6 employees, that there's this absolute barrier, this rub where they feel they can't say, I don't know how to do that. And it's their value is predicated that I can do everything.
I'm supposed to know the answers.
Yeah. And so I can do it. And that means my value's there.
Yeah.
That is a major thing that holds people back, but it also too creates a culture within that company that is completely backwards of scaling and growing. Instead of problem solving, right? It's I know the answers. It's you come to a single point. Was that something that was easy for you to get over, or was it like?
I mean, I always joke that most people create content that they need for themselves. And I wrote a book. Yes. And I wrote a book that was almost like therapy that I need to write because of the pain that I went through trying to be successful. Like I started at 17. I didn't make any money until I was like 25, 26. Now that might seem fast for some people, but that's 2 failed companies. Like this wasn't side hustle. This is, I'm not going to work for somebody else and I'm going to go create my own future and just struggle where like my dad was like, I'm proud of you that you're still sober, winning, but maybe you should go get a normal job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just can't. So I remember when I finally started to find the thing we were doing is enterprise software, this portal software, and it was starting to work. And then, like you said earlier, I had people on my team, but I was like, this is what you do today. Are you doing this? So the check that it got done, right? And I call it the tell, check, next loop. Like it's a doom loop because at about 10 or 12 employees, you hit this complexity ceiling where you don't have enough time in a day
to direct each person,
No.
solve all the problems. It
No,
just doesn't
to then
exist.
try to do your own work.
Yeah.
Right? You get up in the morning, you're like, I'm going to attack this project and then process my email. And first phone call, second phone call. Next thing you know, it's 6 p.m. I got to go home for dinner.
Mhm.
Then it's 8 o'clock at night. And you're like, I got to get back on because I didn't do any of the stuff that I did.
You're on a hamster wheel.
So like my journey was like getting to a point where I put on like 50 pounds. I was fat. I was in a relationship that I thought was good. Turned out she had a different opinion about that. Turns out you have to be in relation with somebody to be in a relationship. And I was not a very good brother or son or, I remember one time my dad called and I answered and I was in a rush and he just barked at me. He never screamed at me. He's like, why do you even answer if you don't have time to talk? And I was like, so I wanted you to know that I care. And he goes, then just call me back when you got a second to talk. And I was like, that was so dumb that I thought I had to answer the phone to show him I cared. And then I was doing
and you're blowing him off. Yeah.
So it's like, I went through all of that. That company almost killed me. Yeah, I became rich. Okay. Sold the company, became multimillionaire, but it ended up creating a fear of starting the next one.
Yes.
So I went 2 years after that drifting. Okay. And that's what I call it. But I was angel investing and I moved to San Francisco and I was doing stuff, but I was scared because I didn't know any other way. And if you don't know any other way and you have like aspirations to do more, but the last time you did it, it really hurt you and the people you love the most. I mean, most people want to be rich, but their beliefs around what that looks like is scary. So they can't run into it.
Yeah.
So I got lucky. I found a mentor when I moved to San Francisco because I was surprised. Like when I moved, I was 28. I meet these 22-year-old kids, sometimes 19.
Yeah.
And they had just raised 10 million, 15 million in funding, had a team of 500 people. And I was like, how did you do that? And I remember asking my mentor, and he goes, Dan, there's only 4 ways to create leverage, okay? He said, and he called it something a little different. I call it the 4 C's. You've got capital, which, Silicon Valley is known for investing in wild, crazy ideas. So capital, leverage, which you know really well. The other one is content, right? So a lot of people think content's like, this is content. And although it is, like Joe Rogan, very huge leverage. Shoot a video, millions of people can see it, no extra, fractional cost. But content's the SOP. It's the playbooks. It's the standard operating procedures, right? It's the training manual. Huge leverage. The third is code, right? Software, automation, another area you like. Because you write the code once, a little bit of effort up front, and then that thing can run like and especially today with AI, that it's game over. Like it's not even the old days where it's like I build workflow software. Now the software can do the work for you.
It's beyond processes and system. It's dynamic learning.
So, and then the fourth one was collaboration, which is people and labor. Yes. And I was good at the code, a little bit good at the content because I understand systems and processes, capital, but I didn't understand how to create leverage with the collaboration with the people. And that's what I learned at my time in San Francisco was like watching. One of my early investors in my company, Flowtown, the company I did after, was Travis Kalanick from Uber. Yeah. So, we were in the jam pad when the idea came together. It was called ubertaxi.com. And, just the craziness of Uber, but to watch him scale that company to 5,000 employees in 4 years and watch him execute. And I would just try to pattern match. I saw the way he hired Ryan to come in as operations, and then he hired this person, that. And it was just like, the big thing was learning to let go. Yeah. The biggest pain that I self-inflicted was holding on and never empowering or allowing the people that were great to do the work that would have got me more growth. Yeah. And the worst part is to not enable them to achieve the thing they could do because I was trying to, like that's the crazy part. Yes. If you could have, I'd say most teams have a third of their team that are literally weapons that are locked up in a safe.
Yeah. They're literally being held back.
It's like, let them go crazy and allow yourself to be surprised.
The way this holds you back is incredible. And it's so hard. Lots of times you don't even realize it's a problem. You're not doing it and you're not getting the results you want. I mean, it took me, I became paralyzed, quadriplegic, hooked on life support. And then from there, I got out of the hospital, after months of being on tubes, paralyzed, sent home. And then I had to figure out how to start businesses and run businesses when I was paralyzed. I couldn't work. And so I had to actually become like nothing to get this lesson that I need to depend on other people, that I need to empower them to grow and build. And then from that point on, our businesses just erupted and skyrocketed. And I'm like, that was a really hard lesson to learn.
It was a forcing function.
And, I'm like, I wish I would have learned that an easier way. But I don't think I even realized at the time that it was a problem.
Could you have?
I don't know.
See, this is why like people hear some of the stuff I write about in my book and they're like, man, you ever wish you could go back? I'm like, I know me, man, sometimes I'm dumb. Sometimes I'm stubborn.
Absolutely.
Sometimes like that pressure and pain is required for me to be honest with myself, to fight for that change. Cause I mean, I wish it was different, but, and I think I've gotten a little bit better of like change from an aspirational point of view versus change from a, ouch, let's not do that again. But I think, no pressure, no diamonds.
I think looking at it differently, I mean, even after I came out, the things that I installed in my business, and like after that, we had teams going and everything, and I'm like, okay, we have to have what I called my margin of stupidity, where I'm like, I fully am aware that I am stupid in a lot of areas and we can't see and know everything. So we build that into our assumptions and our investing thesis and our style, where here's the margin where we have to be wrong and it still be okay. Where like before I wouldn't have done those things.
No, confident.
Yeah. I was like, afterwards,
Everything
I realized
turns to
that's
gold.
okay.
Did you
It's
get
okay
it?
for me to not know. And it's okay for me to empower others and to build it into the system. And that actually made us more successful because we bought better deals. We bought better companies and assets that could grow with a lot more limited downside. And so just the recognition that I don't need to do this by myself and I need to depend on other people and their power, unleashing it within the company and allowing them to grow and scale personally, will lift up in multiples everything I'm doing. Now, it's easier, I think, to say that, but as you know, that struggle then of going through and having an executive team and infrastructure while keeping the wheels on the bus, so to speak, I want to break that down. A lot of people have companies and they have 10 people, right? 5 people, 2 people, or maybe they're just a solo entrepreneur looking for their first hire. There is a difference in executing by direction versus executing by a plan that you formatted, and then the plan is being executed, right?
Yeah.
And having layers from you to the actual function of the business. Having that executive team, right? How do you go from managing that small team to getting a high-level person, an executive? How do you make that leap? Because lots of times that's a capital problem.
Yeah, there's a cost, an investment, I should say. I mean, I like to think in models. So first thing I would encourage people to consider is the frontline workers. I call them individual contributors. And then you have leaders. Then you have an SLT and you have an ELT, a senior leadership team and an executive leadership team. And if you understand that concept, these 4 levels, and I'm talking about scale. Scale to me is have a business that can grow and function without you. You might love to be in it, perfect, but it doesn't require you.
Yes.
That becomes an asset. An asset has enterprise value. And I think like I got lucky because software and what I've done has always been focused on that. But a lot of people that have like, plumbing companies and HVAC and all these, the entrepreneurs of the world, they don't realize that, yes, it can make you money, active income, but the real value is turning that into an asset. From a personal net worth point of view, like that's where the real bump in your net worth goes up.
Yeah.
And it's literally some hires, some investments away from happening.
Well, and to put this in perspective, I mean, it's easy to think if you have a business that you're doing, you have a few people, but the business is required on you. Like if you don't work, it doesn't function. Maybe somebody would pay a 1x multiple, but they're going to then have you under contract for the lifespan.
Oh yeah. When you go to exit,
right?
Yeah.
If you build a infrastructure, what you're doing is you're turning that source of income into an asset that people want to buy because they can actually own it and it will still produce that. So you go from like a 1 multiple to all of a sudden 3+. So the magnifying portion of a single hire or a couple of hires to your net worth into the business value, right? It is so disproportionate. And so that cost of that employee, when you look at and saying it's a cost to turning it to, no, this is an investment which is going to yield me 4 or 5 times, that changes your perception.
I mean, yeah, as you know, with the right business model and multiplier, that $250,000 hire makes you 4 or 5 million more
exactly.
on exit. It's interesting because, there's one part which is, what is the blueprint of our business model? I think a lot of people, and why I think they come to you, is you give them the blueprint to be successful. Yeah. And some people are still trying to figure it out, and they think like, oh, I've got a unique way of doing it. Like, okay, you might have 5% that's unique, like the recipe, but the rest of it, like, don't. Chicken is chicken. Software is one of those things where, like, it works the same way.
Yeah.
What you do from an innovation point of view can be innovative, but like in regards to like the metrics and
you're adding on or building upon, but
just go get the blueprint from somebody.
Yes.
And then the people, the interesting part is most people have a hard time hiring those folks because they don't know how to lead those folks to get the value from those people because they control too much.
Yes.
And that is, I always joke, don't hire somebody and then tell them how to do their job. Steve Jobs used to joke around. He'd say like, hiring somebody and telling them what to do is easy.
Yeah.
Hiring somebody and having them tell you what to do is hard.
Yes.
When I learned that through my early mentors in Silicon Valley, was how do I become the really CEO is, you're the talent around vision, money, and people, but you should be out of the work products, because then you're the bottleneck. Like, you want to be able to get on a plane and go speak at an event and then go talk to some people, whatever, and the whole machine keeps running.
Yeah.
Your involvement is additive. Like, again, I go back to Steve Jobs because, his products are great and everybody knows who he was, but like, he would come in and work with Johnny Ives in the design studio to talk about some of the material science and the innovation and the stuff and try this and that. But he'd walk away. Yeah. He's not sitting there putting dyes together to do a blue iMac. Like, he literally, Johnny and the team would push it forward. Now, where did he come back? At the very end, when he has to get on stage and present the iPhone to the world.
Yep.
That was his magic. That was his genius. And could somebody else do it? Yeah, Tim Cook does it now. Yeah. Somebody else could have done it. But he's like, this is the way I want to insert myself. But the business doesn't have to be impeded while I'm doing something else. And that's what makes, I call it durable revenue, especially in software.
Yes.
That's what people buy. That's where the enterprise value is. And I think that people will optimize for the scorecard. And if your scorecard is just profit, then that's it's limiting.
It's very limiting.
Whereas if your scorecard is enterprise value, then you'll make a different series of decisions.
It stops you from growing, because there's a point where as you're growing, you're hiring more people. There's a direct correlation with growth and the amount of profit. But once you start hiring upper level teams and executives, because that's an investment, there's a contraction in that category.
It's the 3 to 10 million usually.
Yes.
You got this like valley of despair.
Yes.
Right? You have to go through it. You're not as profitable. And unfortunately, you work a little harder.
Yes, you do, because you have these new people.
Yeah.
You got to pass forward
the
blueprint.
You got to document stuff. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out your rhythms. You got to do all this stuff. And you see it all the time. People go, ouch, back.
Yep.
And it's sad because they're right there. Another 8 months, another 12 months.
But they're looking at it going, I'm working more and I'm making less. This is stupid.
I'm going back to last year. Last year felt good.
Yep.
I knew how to do that. But if you think about it, that's people that don't realize that new levels come with new devils. Yeah. What I've learned is every time I go to another level, like playing a video game, I will not be good at that level.
Yeah.
So by definition of it not being good and it's hard, means I'm doing the right thing. Because comfort means I'm still playing level 5.
Yeah.
If my potential is level 22 and I keep playing level 5 because I know how to play that level, man, that'd be a sad day to find out that you had 22 levels in you.
Well, it's so funny because I ask, entrepreneurs or investors, I say, how much work did it take to get that thing profitable? And they're like, oh my gosh, it took my life and I spent all this money, everything else like that. And then I look at it and I go, okay, but now you're doing the same thing. You're investing in your company. You're working more to get it to that next level. Why now do you think that doesn't pay off? Like, it took you to do that to get it to this level. Now you're comfortable on that level. So doing it again, I understand, stinks, or, it may not be viewed the same way. And so you're going to kind of going back to it. But it's like going through it, it takes you to that next level. It's the same things as when you start. It's the unknown. It's the capital management, looking for that ROI that you don't even know if it'll come yet. and the mistakes that will be made, which in turn lead to that knowledge. And then that creates the infrastructure to break out of it. But it's part of it. Every level comes with that, like you're talking about it. And once you see that going through a couple levels, then it excites you. Because now you're like, oh, I'm moving.
Yeah.
Like, and what comes next is going to be awesome.
The confidence get built.
Yes.
It's, and that's what I think entrepreneurship is like, the ultimate personal development program.
Absolutely.
Right? You're in the dojo. Yeah. If the reward, if just the learning is good enough, then you'll keep playing.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's the perspective shift that over the years, if you are blessed enough to get to a place where you got the other stuff, the money, you go, oh, the real value is me learning those skills because I get to take me with me for the rest of my life.
Progress. I'm getting better.
Yeah. I know how to set the sail. I don't care which way the wind's blowing. I just now, and then that confidence comes from the certainty of being able to solve problems. I don't know what the problems are. And you said this earlier, which I loved, which was like, when you start, I just assume I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's a crazy, some business people don't realize, because they're fighting so hard to just have some level of confidence and certainty that they can't admit to that. Whereas like the more mature entrepreneurs actually start companies with the assumption, I don't know what's going to not work.
Yes.
I can only guarantee there's something about the guess we're about to make that it's off. And our job is to kind of poke around and ask questions to figure out what assumption is wrong so that we lose the least amount of money in the shortest amount of time so that we can fix it. And then, and I remember the moment, well, like one of my mentors said that to me. He's like, I just assume I'm wrong. And he makes a list of riskiest assumptions and he organizes them by the riskiest.
Yeah.
And so it was like weird for me to hear him saying, I'm going to go build this like AI software, but I actually know it probably won't work. I don't know what part won't work, but let me go and take guesses at to the part that essentially, if it doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't work, and work my way through that. And the more you build that momentum. I think life obviously works the same way if you keep playing the game.
Well, and mature entrepreneurs realize the things that I do need to know. And it's not what most people think you need to. So like this creates that analysis paralysis where it's like, I don't know enough. And it's not how much you know, it's what you know. Do you know the right things? Risk management. Do you know the demand? Do you see the market share and the strategy where, oh, I know how that there's actual value here, not because I assume, because the market needs it. There is value, we can tap into it. How directly to get to there, right? Well, we're just going to figure that out. I have no idea. It's what you know. It's not how much you know. And that analysis paralysis is a sign of they're just trying to get more information, which actually lots of times makes it way worse.
Yeah, it'd be great to visualize the chart of how much information we know before we make a decision.
Yeah.
I think it would surprise people.
I think it would. Right.
It's way
really
less than most people. Yeah. They're like, you said yes without knowing. It's like, I just made a decision and figure I'll make it right after I make the decision. Because that's how it's always worked.
That's how it works. Now, you talk about a lot of these, how you approach things, right? When you have a team though, or obviously there's different functions of the team, how do you make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction? And really by rowing in the same direction, I don't necessarily mean like, okay, well, you come to work and here's your job. No, that culture part of it. Like we're all trying to achieve that similar goal. And how do you pass that down? How do you even develop that within the company?
Obviously, people talk about values all the time, but anybody that's actually built culture knows that values are not words on a wall.
Yeah.
Values are what you use to hire. They're literally the filter of who makes it on the team. Mm-hmm. They're what you use to inspire, right? To reward people. And they're what you use to fire and curate, because you will make mistakes on who you allow on the team. And people evolve and change, and your company evolves and change. And, sometimes you need the right horse for the course, and the course changed, so the horse has to change. It's nobody's fault, but unfortunately, this is a decision you have to make. So my big thing is, first off, have I been clear about what that future looks like?
Yes.
Because, again, back to high-performing people want to run.
Yeah.
Well, but what they don't want to do is run in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So if they don't know the direction they're supposed to be running, they'll walk.
Yep.
Until they feel like they have confidence and clarity in the direction.
Yes.
So if you can at least give them a clear picture of the mountain, what it looks like when you get up there, how we're this is the strategy, then they'll be able to make directionally better decisions on a day-by-day basis. And I think people think it's about making the right decision. I think it's about knowing what to say no to.
Yes.
I need to teach my team what is priority and what we're doing, so when new opportunities or their own ideas, because this is a problem, is like there's no lack of good ideas. It's which one of them do we decide to go do?
That's hard for people to get.
It's
I
a
tell
very
people all the
big
time,
idea,
like,
yeah.
You're going to regret not doing this business because it's going to make money. I'm like, no, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm like, the amount of opportunity that is out there is wild. And it's not that not investing in either that company or you, it doesn't mean I don't think you'll be successful.
No.
And people are like, what? I don't get that. Because I'm not gambling. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is going to hit red, right? There's different degrees. There's what I'm trying to do, what my company's trying to do. It's an allocation of resources, time, effort into the right things. And that means saying no then to a lot.
We say no today to the yes for our goals.
Yes.
That's like, I remember I was at a party and a guy was like, hey man, I have this like easy way for you to make an extra $5 million. I said, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm good. And he's like, well, why are you good? You know, like $5 million? I said, it's not that. It's just like, and I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way. I personally don't entertain opportunities that aren't like 50 million plus.
Yeah.
Because if I say yes to meetings and scheduling for that, then I don't have the space to go work on the problems that are the right problems. Yeah. And he's like, oh. And I go, do you have a filter for what you say no to? And he's like, I don't think I do. And I said, then you don't know what to say yes to either.
Yes.
So that is always vision. That's the first thing. Then the values are how we get that way. And then this thing, and I wish it wasn't this way, AJ, and I know you'll resonate with this. I repeat myself till I feel like I'm a parrot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I repeat myself until I know my team makes fun of me behind my back for saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you think they got it, somebody new joins the team.
Yep.
Somebody forgot. Mm-hmm. Somebody decided to go work on a pet project. So like whatever it is, and you literally have to let me remind you, this is what we're doing. And I go through it and I go through it. And I used to hate it because I'm like, I'm a systems guy. I like to write it, set it, and forget it. Like why? I write code. It's like write the code once. It runs like that for the rest of life. Humans, unfortunately, have short-term memory.
Yes.
And it's literally this effort of hitting it. And some CEOs don't want to do it. But I'm telling you, simple, clear, repeated is probably one of the most powerful strategies to make progress, because you already know the few moves you got to make really well every day that will lead up to the thing you want to create. So that's how I, for like my like CEOs that report to me, those are some of the things that I work with them and demonstrate to them on how they need to support their team, because it's working through their team.
Yeah.
Right? If you tell people what to do, check they got done, and tell them what to do next, that's transactional leadership. Mm-hmm. That has a limit.
Yep.
Transformational leadership is getting clear on the outcome, telling them how you're going to measure the progress, and then coaching them to success. That has upfront effort, but backside, like massive upside. Like I remember, I think it was Jimmy Donaldson. Mr. Beast recently was on a podcast, and he was being interviewed about this because, you know, how do you grow so quick and how do you do that? And he made the comment, he goes, unfortunately, what I'm doing, very few people have ever done this before. I can't hire from traditional Hollywood or whatever. So we built a system for mentoring and training. He goes, my philosophy though is I don't hire somebody unless they're willing to dedicate a decade. Because the first year is where I pour into you. The next 9 are where I get the ROI of that investment.
Yep.
I don't think people have those conversations anymore with folks because they're used to this 18-month transactional, transient work culture, and they shouldn't be. Because my philosophy is, you tell me what you want to go create in your life. And if I hear what you want to have as an experience and what you want to accomplish, I can provide you. And you may not be ready yet, but I'll pour into you for the next 9 years. Then I want to have a conversation. We're sticking around for a decade.
Yeah. Oh, I tell people, if you're not going to be around here for 10 years, don't be here for a day. I don't want it. There's no reason to.
Create the space for somebody else.
Our mission and our vision isn't coming overnight. And so we're working on this. And even, especially with executives, like executive levels are creators. They're not just executors. They create policy, procedure. They create the things that is needed to achieve the goal, right, within the company. So creation to execute and then actually take away and get something from it, that takes time, especially enterprise value, right? Now, you can do it quickly at scale by using leverage things, but at the end of the day, it has to be created. It has to work.
Can't make a baby, 9 women in a month.
Exactly. So if I got a team that my executive team, I'm looking at them, and when we bring them on, that is the thing I'm actually the most nervous about. Where I'm like, hey, and those discussions, I've actually been having these discussions with one of my executive team all over the last week with particularly new members of the executive team. It's like, are you going to be here? Because this is going to determine. You've been here for 6 months. We do a follow-up. We sit down. What's working? What's not? And we talk about the company. What's their vision for it? And I'm like, I just need to know, because I don't care. Like, if you want to go do other things, great, go. Like, I hope you're successful.
Don't take a spot.
Awesome. But don't take a spot and use us to bridge a gap or something else. Be here for the mission, the vision, the creation part of it, right? Or go. Either way is fine, right? And that is, I think we have a very big issue today where people do not think in not only 5-decade terms, they don't even think almost next year. What will I be doing? Who knows? And if you have a team that thinks like that, you are not going towards a vision.
Yeah.
You're not going towards this goal.
They don't know. I mean, the clarity of vision is what pulls people out of a funk.
Yes.
You know, oftentimes people are like, I feel like there's a cloud over me. I know what your problem is.
Yeah.
You don't know what the sun looks like anymore.
Love that.
You forgot. Just sit down.
Yeah.
But the cool part is the solution is doodling in a notebook for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And give yourself. Just revisit it, remind yourself, give yourself permission to dream a little bit. Be okay if you're wrong. I don't care if my vision will get adjusted, but at least I have one.
Yeah.
That's required.
I think culture, this is really an important topic because you bring it up. It is not pizza parties. It's not words on walls. It is
not
what
ping pong tables.
No, it's not those things. It is when people say, and when I look, wait, what are things that, first of all, what's going to tick AJ or the team off? Like, if I do something, what are the things that they actually don't care about? Like, I can fail at a whole bunch of things and they're not going to be that upset.
Yeah.
But if I do certain things, if I lie, if I do these,
scream at somebody.
They are going to, it is.
Yeah.
Right,
I call those rubber balls versus glass balls.
Yes, exactly. So when I'm looking at culture, it is an organic thing that then materializes, right? That then you can put words to. And when you try to create a culture that is not in line with who you and the executive team inherently are, that causes a lot of issues within organizations. And entrepreneurs, especially young ones, it's on what do we want to be instead of who we are, and write it on a wall, right? Because we think that is what I'm supposed to do, or we think that looks good. And then that culture, you end up hiring people that are not aligned. And then you're confused why our team isn't aligned. And they're like, well, I'm going along with this, but you're acting like this. And so then you can't row to get to the vision. So the culture is like the beating of that drum where everybody's rowing to. It's rhythm. We all know it. We feel it. And I don't need to see what the people in the back are doing. I don't need to see what the people in the front are doing, right? I know we're all going. And that is something that is missing in a lot of companies today, where they're attracting people that don't share those core competencies and beliefs on a very fundamental level, right? And you got to be careful with this as you hire executives and people, because they will change the culture.
Yeah.
What do you do with people that you bring in? Like, because you get a bad apple, it can be like cancer. It spreads.
It's the one thing, business would be easy other than people. And some people are really good at putting their best foot forward in the early days, right? Like one of my philosophies, and I would encourage people to build the business the way they want to build it. My way may not be your way, okay? So my rule is the first 90 days are the worst 90 days. I'm going to overload you, overwhelm you, and create a sense of like, ouch, to watch how you respond. Like, I'm not mean about it. I tell them. My final interview with the person is my only job is to convince you not to take the job.
Yeah.
Here's why. You might say you're motivated and driven. I don't know if you understand what that means in our team, okay? You might say you want to accomplish these big things and you're willing to do whatever it takes. Same answer. So just so you know, here's what it looks like. Here's how it's going to feel. Here's what I believe. Here's what I'm going to expect of you. Here's how I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like if those things feel like I don't like it, please don't take the job.
Yeah.
However, and it's not like a takeaway, like it's not a sales tactic.
No.
It's like I'm being genuinely honest. I know you probably need it, like, and for certain roles, director level and above, we're pulling people from other companies, right? We're not open market. I know some people need a job, so they're like, oh man, I really need this job. I need to pay rent, whatever. But when it comes to the people side of things, we have, every time I get together with my executives, I ask them, so like money, people, vision. The people side, I keep it really simple. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 employees or 50 or 5. I go culture, like bought into the mission, and then effective, like productive. Those are the XY axis. And all I care about is who's yellow. Yellow are people that are really effective, but aren't bought into the culture.
Yeah.
Because to me, if they're not like, that's the cancer.
Yeah.
That's the person that can do the job, but then is just horrible, talking to, mean, they're mad dog, they step on people's toes, they mess around, they talk crap about people behind their team, they're disruptive. Okay. Those are the ones, get them off the team. Then there's the folks that high culture, not effective, but it might be the whole, like they're on the wrong seat on the bus.
Yeah.
So I might sit down with them and figure out, maybe we put them in the wrong opportunity and they'll never be able to be successful there, but maybe somewhere else they'll shine. The red people are the ones you got 60 to 90 days to get them off your team. Those are the people that are just not effective and haven't bought in. So like and then the top right quadrant, those are green. Those are the ones that we figure out how to lock them in with golden handcuffs. Yeah. You know, this is where the executive comp structure gets played a point, where I want them to get compensated with an unlimited compensation strategy based on their ability to execute. And I never want somebody to feel held back.
Yes.
And that's the way I think about it. And every time I sit down, my job as a leader, and I do it with my CEOs and they do it with their teams, and hopefully the leaders do it with their teams, is to figure out the ones in the wrong bus or the culture cancer. Because the red is obvious. Yeah. Yeah, they've been here 90 days. They're, I always say my socks are still on. Yeah. They promised me my socks would be knocked off. Still on. There. Quite on. But man, the culture cancer ones are tough because they're making results. Exactly. They're making you money.
And it has been for me. When I'll put up with it because, man, it's doing a great job, everything else, until it gets to a point that it's too late. And then I'm like, and then I'll go, I should have done this so long ago.
Backroom conversations, and then they're trying to convince this other person to leave with them to create a company to compete against you. Exactly. But you knew it. The red flag was there. Yep. My rules, red flags don't go down. Yeah. I've never said the sentence, I wish I wouldn't have listened to my gut. I've never said that. If my gut's like, there's something off, I always tell, and this is the hard part of like trusting, you're allowed to have no proof and decide this is not working. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, I at least want to know that I did the right decision with what I felt and what I saw, and I don't need proof. This is like, I'm going to have to like live on my results based on my decisions. And I think sometimes we wait too long to transition people off the team.
Absolutely. I understand that, especially when you've got a company that you're starting up and you need those results. I understand why it's hard, but once again, back to that investment, this is the opposite. You're literally nurturing something that's going to blow up.
Not only that, you're teaching the A players that it's okay to have that person
and
around,
they'll leave.
And they'll go.
Now, how do you spend a lot of time? I got one more question here before we let you and your team go. You've been so kind, but that I want to hit on this. I think this is really important when you talk about that executive compensation. Yeah. That executive compensation structure, those golden handcuffs. I want to bring somebody in that will be that executive, that I want them to be there for 10 years. It's my first time hiring them, or maybe I have one that works good, and now I want to give them that executive compensation and structure. How do you even go about that? People are like, do I just give them equity? Do I just pay them more? Like, what am I supposed to do that makes it so that person will want to be here for 10 plus years and will be satisfied, hungry, and that they're bought into it? How do you nurture
I think the mistake people make is profit sharing. It's the dumbest way to incentivize people, because the truth is, and they may not know this, but the CEO, you control the profit. Yeah. You can control profit by the amount of projects you take on, the people you hire, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the profit sharing doesn't work out. So first rule is, what is the metric, that one number that they control that is a positive indication for the business? So for all things being equal, gross margin is a better number, specifically gross margin per their area of the business, their efficiency, whatever they're doing, right? It could be enterprise, like in my venture company, it's enterprise value. And there's that quadrant of base variable. So the base compensation, hey, you get paid 10 grand a month. Your variable compensation could be an extra 20K a month based on the ability for you to perform. Now there's a minimum performance based on your role that you have to hit. So what we do is, I have this spreadsheet I created, and in the center, and if anybody wants, they can just message me on Instagram. So, but you got to follow me. That's what AJ, they follow me, Dan Martell on Instagram, and message me executive comp, and I'll send them my direct spreadsheet template. I think I even have like an SOP for how to set it up. But essentially it's a grid, and it shows them what the target is and what they make, but then what the potential is. And it's cool because it scales up. If it's a little bit better, you make a little bit more money. But if it's a lot better, especially over a quarter, you get a lot more money. Why? Because if you make the business more efficient in the next 90 days, I get the benefit of the efficiency for the next 9 years.
Yes.
So I want to incentivize you this quarter to whoosh, get that result better. The problem is that's also short term. So the mistake with compensation is people will take action around what they're rewarded for. So if it's a 90-day exec comp structure, and you can do it over a year or quarter, then you also have to have the MBOs, the management by objective. Like, what are the projects, the infrastructure, the pieces that people are laying in to make durable revenue that you also want to comp them on? So then we have project scoring and completion, usually 3 to 4 per quarter, that are things that that leader needs to also execute and put in the business to create foundational value that they can't see right away in the scorecard for the gross margin production, because they're they're sharpening the saw type activities, right? Deploying a new CRM system or whatever. So I always have the comp be really those 3 components. What's the base compensation, the variable comp, and of the variable comp, how much is performance metrics, cost of leads or whatever your metric is, and then how much is the percent of their project execution. And it's very simple. We sit down at the beginning of the quarter, we talk about the projects, we talk about the targets based on the scorecard, put it in the spreadsheet, we both sign it. They got it, I got it. As the quarter goes through, they can adjust it and see how they're doing and look at how much their bonus is going to be. And at the end, we sit down. The only thing we got to discuss is, you think you got 50% of that project done. I think it was more like 20. Let's meet in the middle. And as a percentage of completion, there's a total dollar amount potential that you could have earned. And then it says, okay, you got 100K coming from this. You got 25K coming from there. Let's talk about next quarter. It's so simple. But what I love about it is, one, I didn't give equity. You can't take it, this, you can't take it back. The other thing is, sometimes if you set up the equity structure wrong, they got to pay taxes on it. And a lot of them aren't sitting around with liquid cash sitting in a bank account to cover those option grants or whatever. And that's not really what I want them to be focused on. I want them to be focused on enterprise value, not profit, because profit is short term. Right? I remember one time I had a company there, and the executive set profit as the comp. Well, the guy running the email marketing, what did he do? Well, he treated that email list like it was a NASCAR ad. And he hit his numbers and he made a lot of profit. And then all of a sudden the emails were going to like a 5% open rate and 0 click-through rates. Well, because you burned through it.
Burned everything you'd worked for to get it up to that point, all that time, money, and you just blew it up.
I mean, the skill of scale, especially like that 5 to 10 to 25 million range, is understanding how to set up the compensation strategy for your teams. Because that's truly what business is about. You said it earlier. I could own a restaurant, and I haven't made a sandwich in years. And that restaurant will be the best restaurant in the world. Because I'm going to hire people that are the best at what they do. And I'm going to design the reward system for them to get rich. If I get rich, you get rich. And I would rather give you 10, 20, 30% of the profit, knowing I have the best talent, building this thing out, and I can go on vacation to Hawaii and know that we're both aligned with what needs to get done. Because I'm playing long-term greedy. Some people are so short-term, they're like, oh, I can't give them 5% of this, or can't pay. He can't possibly make 7 figures. That's wild. I don't make that much. A guy, buddy, I gotta stop saying it, buddy. A guy asked me to talk to his friend because he's really struggling. I said, hey, give me his number. I'll call him next time I'm driving to work. Call the guy. I said, tell me about your business. It was clearly something happened in the sales thing. I said, what happened last year? You crushed it, and this year you're not crushing it. Well, we had a sales guy and he left. I said, why did he leave? Because he wanted to make more money. Why didn't you pay him more money? Because he made more than me.
Why?
Dude, I was like, you're paying him 10% of your revenue. So if he wants to make more money, let's say he wants 11%, it doesn't matter. If he makes you an extra million, you pay him an extra $500,000, he made you an extra $5 million.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to tell you how to run your business. You should call the guy back, apologize, and see if he'll come back. That was like the weirdest.
Yeah.
Why am I on this call?
It goes back to that pride issue. I'm not investing in today and I'm not doing the things I need to do because I should be the man. I should be making this quarter. He made more than I did or whatnot. And once again,
you
that's
own
short
the
term.
company.
Like, it's your equity.
Yeah,
he's
enterprise
increasing
value.
that at a multiple for you. So like he may have made more cash flow, but your equity multiple, you're getting wealthy.
It's like so crazy. I guess, and I didn't understand this when I was starting, but that's what it is. It's just you don't know what game you're playing.
Yeah.
And if I don't know how to play the game, then I might be thinking I'm playing soccer, but I'm really playing cricket and everybody's screaming at me because I'm trying to get in a soccer net and they're like, hey, hit the ball this way with that paddle.
You're playing an income game where you should be playing a capital game, like capital management, equity, everything else. But you're still stuck in an income game.
Yeah.
And that kills your ability to build
real wealth.
Real wealth. Exactly. Real, true wealth. This has been an amazing conversation, man.
Yeah, super fun.
Really appreciate you being here. And the tactical side that you're drilling into, alongside that wisdom, that's extraordinarily helpful. Where can people go to find more about you? We got your book here.
Yeah, if anybody likes what they've heard and they want to understand how I think about like getting unstuck and really building that business, Buy Back Your Time is the best resource out there. It's a Wall Street Journal best-selling book. It sold almost 500,000 copies. I like YouTube and Instagram, so I put out a lot of content. We do like hundreds of pieces of content every month. YouTube and Instagram are my favorite. If they follow me on Instagram, have them, message me, say hello. And if you want the executive comp spreadsheet, just mention AJ in this pod and I'll send over the link.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Super cool.